Breaking news alert. Hockey fans, we're witnessing something truly special in Toronto right now. In a moment that felt scripted by the hockey gods themselves, Max Domi has etched his name into Maple Leafs playoff folklore, with a breathtaking overtime winner that has the entire city buzzing. The son of beloved Leafs enforcer Ty Domi just delivered a storybook ending in Game 2, drilling home the game winner 3:09 into overtime to give Toronto a commanding 2-0 series lead over their provincial rivals, the Ottawa Senators. As Max celebrated wildly with teammates, cameras caught his father Ty, who battled for the blue and white for 12 passionate seasons, beaming with unmistakable pride from the stands. This isn't just playoff hockey, folks. This is generational hockey legacy unfolding before our very eyes in one of the sport's most storied markets. The dramatic overtime clincher capped off a roller coaster night at Scotiabank Arena that had the raucous Toronto crowd riding an emotional wave from start to finish. The Maple Leafs appeared to be cruising after building a comfortable 2-0 lead, only to watch Ottawa battle back and force overtime with a late equalizer just over 5 minutes from the end of regulation. When the tension couldn't possibly escalate further, it was Domi who emerged as the unlikely hero. The sequence began with defenseman Simon Benoit making a clean zone entry before sliding the puck to Domi, who showcased exceptional poise by navigating through Ottawa's defensive structure and unleashing a rocket that beat Senators goaltender Linus Ullmark clean. The goal triggered a thunderous celebration throughout Scotiabank Arena, but perhaps the most meaningful reaction came from Ty Domi, whose emotional response in the stands spoke volumes about the significance of the moment. The elder Domi, who accumulated 2,265 penalty minutes while defending the Maple Leafs crest across 777 games with the organization, watched proudly as his son carved out his own special place in Toronto playoff history. Captain John Tavares perfectly encapsulated the sentiment around the team, saying simply, "Great for him, great for our team." Toronto's blue line has emerged as an unexpected offensive catalyst in this series, with veteran defenseman Morgan Rielly continuing his postseason resurgence by netting his second goal in as many games. This offensive contribution from the defensive core has created matchup nightmares for the Senators, who have struggled to contain Toronto's multi-layered attack. The Leafs' power play struck with surgical precision early in the contest, just 18 seconds into their first opportunity, when a Tavares pass deflected off Ottawa defenseman Nick Jensen and into the net. Rielly extended the lead to 2-0 shortly thereafter, providing what seemed to be a comfortable cushion before Ottawa mounted their comeback. Perhaps equally important to Toronto's success has been the exceptional play of goaltender Anthony Stolarz, who stopped 26 shots and demonstrated remarkable composure throughout the contest. In a moment that electrified the Maple Leafs bench, Stolarz even found time for some gamesmanship, retaliating against Ottawa's Ridley Greig in the second period after being run over by the forward in Game 1. With Greig attempting to establish position in the crease late in the middle frame, Stolarz deliberately backed into the Senators' player with considerable force. A veteran move that energized his teammates and reinforced the intensifying physicality of this provincial rivalry. Stolarz has been nothing short of phenomenal through the first 2 games of the series, providing the type of goaltending stability that has often eluded Toronto during their recent playoff disappointments. The 30-year-old netminder was particularly spectacular during a challenging second period, when the Maple Leafs struggled to generate any meaningful 5-on-5 play. Without Stolarz's clutch saves during this extended stretch of Ottawa pressure, Toronto likely would have surrendered their early advantage and potentially lost control of the game entirely. Even after a defensive breakdown allowed the Senators to equalize late in regulation, following a costly turnover in Toronto's scoring zone, Stolarz maintained his composure and made several key stops to ensure the game reached overtime, where Domi could emerge as the hero. For Stolarz, who signed with the Maple Leafs during the offseason specifically because he believed this organization would provide meaningful playoff opportunities, the first 2 games of this series have validated that career decision. His emergence as a difference-maker could potentially solve Toronto's long-standing postseason goaltending questions that have plagued the franchise throughout their decades-long struggle to advance deep into the Stanley Cup playoffs. The overtime heroics from Domi provided Toronto with a crucial 2-0 series advantage that carries tremendous historical significance for the franchise. Known primarily for his playmaking abilities throughout his career, Domi opted for the shooter's mentality at the perfect moment, firing a powerful shot off the post and in after receiving Benoit's feed. It marked Domi's first career playoff, goal, and served as a timely reminder of the offensive spark he can provide even from a bottom six forward position. While his ice time may be limited compared to Toronto's star-studded top lines, Domi's ability to deliver this type of clutch performance could prove invaluable as the Maple Leafs attempt to navigate their way through the postseason gauntlet. If this goal triggers a confidence surge that allows Domi to contribute consistent secondary scoring, Toronto's attacking depth could become a genuine advantage in what promises to be an increasingly physical and tightly contested series. The Maple Leafs faithful certainly hope this momentum-shifting moment represents just the beginning of Domi's playoff impact, rather than an isolated highlight in a career that has sometimes failed to match the expectations that accompanied him. As the 12th overall selection in the 2013 NHL Draft, with his famous surname now attached to another memorable Toronto playoff moment, perhaps Domi has found the perfect stage to elevate his game when it matters most. The resurgence of Morgan Rielly during this postseason run has been nothing short of remarkable, particularly considering the veteran defenseman's inconsistent performance throughout the regular season. Rielly has now scored in consecutive playoff games, suggesting he's rediscovered his offensive touch at precisely the right moment for Toronto. His partnership with Brandon Carlo appears to have unlocked Rielly's best attributes, with Carlo's defensive reliability creating the freedom for Rielly to activate more frequently in the offensive zone, an area where his skills truly shine. Rielly's latest goal came on a textbook backdoor play, finishing with precision after receiving a brilliant feed from William Nylander. This postseason production stands in stark contrast to Rielly's regular season output, where he managed just 41 points across 82 games, numbers that fell well below expectations for a defenseman of his caliber. His offensive revival has provided Toronto with a vital additional attacking dimension beyond their star forwards, creating the type of balanced scoring that successful playoff teams typically require. Perhaps most impressively, Rielly's goal in Game 2 tied him for the most playoff goals ever scored by a defenseman in franchise history, a remarkable achievement that underscores his growing legacy within one of hockey's most storied organizations. With each playoff contribution, Rielly continues to solidify his place among the most impactful defensemen to ever wear the maple leaf. Captain John Tavares continues to lead by example for Toronto, contributing another multi-point performance, with a goal and an assist in Game 2. The veteran center has now accumulated 4 points across the first 2 games of the series, providing consistent production while anchoring Toronto's top 6 forward group with the steady, composed presence that has defined his distinguished career. Tavares opened the scoring on the power play midway through the first period, unleashing a low shot that deflected off a Senators defenseman before finding its way into the net. This timely conversion with the man advantage helped establish the early momentum that carried Toronto through much of the contest. With his latest playoff contributions, Tavares has now amassed an impressive 50 postseason points, 25 goals, across 64 career games, production that reinforces his reputation as a reliable playoff performer, despite the narrative that has sometimes surrounded Toronto's core during previous postseason disappointments. His leadership both on and off the ice has been instrumental in helping the Maple Leafs secure their commanding position in the series as they prepare for Games 3 and 4 in Ottawa's hostile environment. Tavares' ability to maintain this level of performance will be crucial as Toronto seeks to capitalize on their strong start and potentially secure their first playoff series victory since 2004. Tuesday night's overtime triumph has placed the Maple Leafs in rarefied historical territory, as they have established a 2-0 series lead for the first time since 2002. This promising beginning bodes extremely well for Toronto's chances of advancing beyond the first round, a hurdle that has tormented this franchise throughout recent history. The statistical outlook appears particularly favorable for the Maple Leafs, who boast a perfect 10-0 record historically when winning the first 2 games of a playoff series at home. This also marks just the second time in the Auston Matthews-Mitch Marner era that Toronto has opened a postseason with consecutive victories, potentially signaling that this core group has finally developed the playoff maturity necessary to translate their regular season excellence into postseason success. Adding another layer of historical significance to this Battle of Ontario renewal is the unique distinction of being the first playoff series between 2 Canadian teams led by American-born captains, with Auston Matthews wearing the C for Toronto opposite Brady Tkachuk of Ottawa. As the series shifts to Ottawa's Canadian Tire Centre for Games 3 and 4, the Senators will be desperately seeking to leverage their home ice advantage and passionate crowd to climb back into contention. Meanwhile, the Maple Leafs understand the importance of maintaining their aggressive approach rather than allowing complacency to creep into their game. If Toronto can secure at least a split in the next two contests, they would position themselves perfectly to potentially end their first-round curse and take a significant step forward in their quest to bring the Stanley Cup back to Canada's largest city for the first time since 1967. My goodness, what a moment in Toronto. I've covered hockey for over 2 decades, and there's something truly special brewing with these Maple Leafs. The way Max Domi channeled his father's fighting spirit into that overtime winner gave me absolute chills. You could see the emotion in Ty's face up in the stands. That's what playoff hockey is all about, folks. Pure, raw, generational passion. And how about Anthony Stolarz? The guy signs here believing he could be the difference in the playoffs, and he's standing on his head when it matters most. If you're loving this playoff coverage, please smash that like button right now to keep these in-depth reports coming your way. And I'm absolutely dying to hear your predictions in the comments. Can the Leafs finally break their first-round curse? Will Domi's heroics spark a deep playoff run? Is Stolarz the goaltending solution Toronto has desperately needed? Your passion fuels our coverage, so let your voice be heard below.